Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my channel, Become the Disruptor. My name is Magda. I'm a trauma-informed therapist, and today we're going to be talking about nervous system capacity versus regulation, and actually why high functioning and highly productive people are actually a lot of the times very dysregulated. And I saw that so many times in my clients. I also saw that, I experienced that in myself. I was, when you brought up in a communist Poland, production is a way of life. If you don't produce, it's almost like you don't exist. So I had been conditioned in a very particular way, but also when people come from complex trauma, almost like not doing things is threatening to their brain, because their brain predicts almost like causes a lot of shame and guilt. So when you're not producing, when you're not being highly functioning, whatever that means to you, however that looks in particular for you, then there's a lot of feelings of shame and guilt. And that would then almost like overwhelm again the nervous system, which is already dysregulated from doing way too much. So let's really be very clear about the fact that people who assume that they are highly functioning and they are really productive, that does not mean that they are regulated, that their nervous system is actually healthy and regulated. And unfortunately, what we do see in our culture is that the culture is actually rewarding that. The culture is rewarding productivity, it's rewarding multitasking, urgency, like you gotta buy this, you gotta do that. Over productivity, being booked up, it's almost like being busy is a badge of honor. It's like if you're not busy, then you're lazy, something wrong with you, you don't have friends, all that sort of stuff. And so there is so on top of, if you had been through trauma, and on top of that, you had been brought up maybe in a particular cultural environment like myself, or maybe actually just in a very Western environment, like that it's just flooding you with the things to stimulate you, for you to be constantly on the watch 24/7. You gotta just look around and just be like, like almost like that meerkat, like, constantly just looking at things. And that is basically dysregulation. There's nothing healthy. And I want to really name that very clearly. There's nothing healthy and regulated about a lot of cultures nowadays, which are praising, like I said, multitasking, urgency, all that. And dysregulation, unfortunately, is often praised or seen as competence, when a lot of the times that is not, you being competent, that is you being probably on the verge of a burnout. So you might be competent and you might be skillful, but dysregulation is completely clouding that, because potentially if you had been doing less, you would be way more skillful and way more competent, because competent people, truly competent people and skillful people, they have the capacity and regulation of their nervous system, and they don't burn out. This is how you maintain, let's say, success and successful life for longer stretches of time, because you understand your nervous system and you understand how it works. So let's maybe define capacity. So capacity basically means that you can tolerate stress, you can tolerate complexity, and your system can carry a lot of demand and a lot of expectations. That is the capacity of the nervous system. And this is great. This is great that you have it. And let's face it, a lot of trauma survivors have very high capacity because they had been brought up in extremely stressful environments. Some of them had been through, stress before they were even born. I had some clients who had been born into domestic violence. And they healed. So there is absolutely not even hope. There is a path. And of course, that path looks different for different individuals, but there's a path towards healing, and nothing, there's no fate or destiny for you just because you were born into a highly dysfunctional family or family dynamics. It's quite the opposite. You can use that capacity. So you can use that capacity that you have because you need to have capacities to survive that. A lot of people, let's say, who had been through complex trauma, they commit suicide or they end up as addicts and they overdose. You know, there's loads of really tragic stories. So for you to be alive and still breathing and actually managing life and being highly functioning, that is like you're a walking capacity miracle. But you're using that capacity miracle for the wrong things altogether. You're not using it in a way that would support your growth and that would support your healing. So let's talk about that. My whole channel actually is about that, but you know, there's a lot of things that you can check on the playlist, but that's for another thing. So you have the high capacity. Now, capacity is very different from regulation, because regulation, so the regulation of your nervous system means that you can have that high capacity, but you can come back to your baseline very quickly. So you have a, let's say, highly stressful situation at work, or, you know, whatever. The cortisol levels and everything else that had been induced within you and within your nervous system due to that situation, you can come back to calm. And I'm not saying that you're going to be calm and steady and hunky-dory. It's like, oh yeah, nothing has happened. It's like, I'm cool. This is not about positive thinking. This is not about positive think yourself into that state. Nah. Now, this comes, and this is where I am getting so boring about that. This comes from your body trusting you because you are an adult who's consistent, who's stable, who is taking small actions, who is not overwhelming and overflooding nervous system with too much tasks, too many things to carry. From that trust, you will be able to naturally come back to the baseline after a stressful event. And you know, I experienced that myself. So it's a very different thing to talk yourself positively into that state. So cognitively, you're coming back to it, but your body is still unsafe. This is not how it works. And I know that there's a lot of my clients who are trying to do that. When I see, for example, we have, like, let's say, a really difficult session and they are really distressed. And then it's almost like not even a minute after they start talking something positive, and now we'll call them out, because the thing is that you gotta honor your body's current natural tendency towards that baseline, and you have to almost like stopping your mind, the conscious parts of your brain, to force yourself into a state. This will never going to work, and it's almost like you're going to be working against your body, and your body will backfire at you. You know, I saw that, like I said, within myself and in a lot of my clients. The positive thinking yourself into the baseline, it's not going to work. The trust is built, like I said, on numerous occasions, through consistent change in behavior and decision-making process throughout longer stretches of time, so that your body, the unconscious parts of your brain, and therefore your nervous system, are start trusting you. And then it's like, okay, so we can come back to the baseline. That was a stressful situation, but we are good. And your body is doing that very naturally. This is not something that you can think about and you can affirm. No, this is a completely different work. This is a work, like I said, that involves the work with the body and with your nervous system, and it will look different for different people. So I can only be, unfortunately, general here. So this regulation internally looks like I said, sometimes, you know, you almost like you positive think yourself into a state, but also you have loads of difficulty in resting. There's a constant mental activity happening. So it's not even overthinking, no. It's almost like your mind is constantly creating tasks for your body. It's almost like, do you know what? Your body and your nervous system is a slave to the mind who's constantly producing different things to do. I know that some of you will be like, oh my gosh, yes, yeah. I know exactly what I'm talking about, because I've been through that, and I've been through that not only within myself, but also with my clients. So When you also, huge guilt and shame, when you're slowing down, guilt and shame, it's almost like it's a danger. It's like you shouldn't be doing that. It's, again, it's your mind, again, the conscious parts of your brain constantly, you know, predicting the threat. So it's like you got it. It's like, let's feel guilty, because otherwise you're going to stop working. And the thing is that you're going to stop working and then you're not going to be safe. You got to start teaching your body that slowing down is safe and nothing's going to happen. And without that experience, your brain will be still running on those old loops that had been conditioned into you because of the trauma. I hope it makes sense. And then, yeah, and then when you do feel calm, you just almost like expect something next to happen. The calm feels wrong and it feels unsafe. So you cannot, almost like there is not even a moment in your life that you can actually be like, or very few. And if they happen, then immediately you think, okay, something's bad's gonna happen. And a lot of the times I had to really explain to my clients that this is just their brain predicting based on the past experience. It's almost like for them, it's real. And for me, it was real as well when I was still healing. It was very real that something's bad's gonna happen, but no, this is just your brain running on the old loops, okay? So, and slowing down is hard, guys. It is hard. It is really hard. And that's why I always say to my clients, and I always say in my videos, slow, safe action, which will look differently for different people, because slowing down for some people will still be, let's say, very fast for another. So it's almost like your kind of titration towards slowness will look different than John's or Linda or whoever. So you have to be very observant of your nervous system and how your nervous system is responding to slowing down, and thinking, okay, so give it a break. It's almost like, not give it a break, it's almost like think about one action and think about doing that action for like 2 weeks and observe your nervous system and see how the nervous system is responding. If it feels like you're slowing down, and that slowing down is safe, and you're no longer feeling those feelings of guilt or shame, you don't have that much of that mental chatter, then it means that you're doing something correct. And maybe you can then slow down a bit more, and then slow down a bit more, slow down a bit more. Yeah. So this is not basically your nervous system being weak or broken. Don't ever think like that, guys. It's basically over deployed, and it had been over deployed for years. So now to use it in the right way, so it's going to be supporting your growth, it's going to be supporting the life that you want to have. It just takes some time, because remember, you're running up against years and years of conditioning for your brain to run certain predictions, for your nervous system to be in particular states and feeling, unfortunately, comfortable in them, because they had been the states, even though they are not healthy for you, let's say fight or flight, but they feel safe. And calm does not feel safe. So parasympathetic state does not feel safe. So you got to change that through those smaller actions and really understanding and observing your nervous system. So I trust that was helpful. If you want some more from me, you can book a session. On the website, you will be able to see the feedback from the clients that I am still working with. Actually, I'm just seeing them way less frequently than at the beginning when we started our work, probably like once a year, twice a year. That's the most. They only book when they need to, when they want to, when something just needs precision or accuracy. But other than that, they are people who manage to heal from really horrible experiences, and they've done it. They've done it thanks to their own hard work. And so you can check that feedback. I think it's very good for people to see that it is possible, especially with complex trauma. We do need hope. And for that not to be like, super expensive or super difficult. It is difficult, but it's almost like it is difficult, but it's differently difficult. It's not complex, so to speak. It's simple, but it is difficult because, like I said, you're working up against a lot of conditioning. But healing is possible. So you can check the feedback let that feedback give you some different perspective on certain things. And otherwise, I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye bye.